morning was calm. The only sound to be heard was from a slight gust of wind making the trees dance rhythmically. The sky was as blue as the sea, there was no cloud in sight, and the sun was shining radiantly. Located on one of the dancing trees was a beautiful Honeycrisp beehive filled with little honeybees who are just waking up to start their busy day. Beatrice, or as her friends call her Bea for short, was one of the thousands of worker bees who were tasked with departing from the hive in search of succulent nectar to bring back to the hive. She awoke warm and happy, just as she did every day, knowing that she was about to visit all of the beautiful flowers in the nearby meadow. Bee loved feeling the sun warm on her wings as she flew from flower to flower, deeply inhaling their sweet aromas. Her best friend Bumble was always right by her side, and they hummed sweet little tunes to each other as they worked. At the end of each day, the workers reported back to their beloved queen to show her their day's harvest. Although the queen would never admit to it, she had always favored Bea, as she had the best work ethic of the entire colony. Every time Bea would return, the queen would smile knowing her hardest worker had returned, but she made sure that the other bees never knew of her secret admiration of Bea. Bea's happiest moments were the ones where she could see the queen crack a small smile at her. Bea was so excited to start her morning like always, but right before she was about to depart, she and her fellow workers were thrown violently around the hive. What after felt like an eternity, the shaking ceased, and Bea got word from the queen to join her fellow workers outside. As she was leaving, she noticed a little boy jump off of the branch where the hive was hanging and begin to swat her fellow workers and friends out of the sky with no remorse. Her instincts took over, and she flew as fast as her little wings could take her straight for the boy. But he fled, and all that was left was the remains of her fallen friends scattered around the battlefield. Before she could express any remorse for the fallen, an ear-shattering yell is heard, and Bea spots a man with his veins bulging through his skin, charging at the hive with a stick in hand. With no time to turn around, all Bea heard was a thundering and watched in anguish as her beautiful home was knocked from the tree and beaten mercilessly until it became an unrecognizable pile of mush. Bea began to frantically search through the wreckage for any trace of life. Some of her friends slowly began to crawl from the piles that used to be her home. Coughing and sputtering, she finds her best friend, Bumble.
Are you okay? What do we do now, Bumble?
In the distance, they hear a soft voice calling out for help.
I would know that voice anywhere. It's the queen.
Bumble by her side, they race off only to find the queen ensnared in the wreckage. Dazed and confused, the queen mutters one final breath. Bea, the colony needs you now. This is your responsibility now. But before Bea could oppose, the queen faded away. Bea looked all around to see all of the survivors staring at her in desperate need of a leader to bestow them with just a glimmer of hope. With heavy hearts and tears in their eyes, they set off to find a new home. Suddenly, Bea remembers her beloved cousins across the meadow.
I have a plan, exclaims Bea. It is only fitting that the new leader saves the day, she whispers to Bumble. We have a cousin hive relatively close to here. If we leave now, we can make it there by dusk.
They race off across the meadow as fast as their little wings could carry them, and thus their adventure begins. As the day starts to come to a close, the sky begins to darken unusually fast. What is that smell? And why is it already so dark? Bumble asks Bea. I don't know about this, Bea, Bumble says worriedly.
Hey, the queen did appoint Bea. Obviously she knows what's best.
They continue to fly into unknown territory. Expecting the warm, inviting meadow that she remembers from her childhood, Bea plunges past the final line of trees only to be greeted with a gray graveyard. Before her stood a large, hazy object that was standing on what was once her cousin's home.
Look at this place. Who would do such a thing?
What do we do now, Bea?
Yeah, Bea, what should we do?
There's no hope for us here. We must move on to where the flowers grow. What about our cousins in Petaltown? If we leave right now...
Enough! We can't keep searching for remnants of old hives. They're all gone, Bea. We have to find somewhere new.
Bumble, please just listen to me.
Buzz off, Bea. If you won't find somewhere new, I'll do it myself. Before Bea could interject, Bumble was buzzing off in the other direction. Bea looks to her colony, and for the first time, she's unsure of their next step. They silently follow Bumble for what seems like hours until they stumble across a new meadow. It was a very peculiar place. The flowers looked similar to the old meadow, and even though there were just a few, they were more vibrant. Feeling triumphant, Bumble turns to the whole colony following in her footsteps. See, everyone? Bea isn't the only one that can lead the hive. I found this place with huge cone flowers, lavender, and purple asters for all of you. Me, not Bea.
You know what, Bumble? Fine. If you think you're so great, why don't you just make a new hive? Anyone who wants to stay here with Bumble, feel free.
As Bea leaves, Bumble starts towards the flowers.
Wait, Bea, something ain't right. We told her not to, but she ate from the plants.
As Bea rushes back to her friend, she sees that Bumble started to fly lower and lower and lower until she drops to the ground. The colony rushes to Bumble's side to find her dazed and sick. Bumble uttered one final warning. Those aren't the flowers that we know. Ugh, they don't taste the same.
Wait, Bumble, I don't understand. Bumble? Bumble!
The colony watched as their once fearless leader now wept for her lost friend. Whispers of uncertainty passed through them, and they feared under Bia's leadership they might meet the same fate. Wiping her tears, Bia turned to find the colony nearly frozen with fear. With a hitch in her voice, Bia said,
We must keep going. We have no choice.
Hesitantly, the colony followed her into the unknown. It seemed like an eternity of flying with no place to land and no flowers in sight. Bia could hear the murmurs behind her, but she kept moving forward. Before her, Bia saw a tall tree line, and to her right she saw a large, somewhat barren field.
Which way should I go?
Bia thought to herself. Trying to keep the panic from showing on her face, she turned to the colony in hope of some reassurance, but none was to be found. Slowly, Bia started making her way towards the trees, but no one followed.
Why should we follow you? What makes you so sure that this is the way?
I have led you this far. You are either with me or against me. Either way, I'm not going to give up until I find a new home. I know that you're all tired, but we can't give up now. I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that I have all the answers. No, I don't know where all the flowers have gone and why our cousin's home was destroyed. But there has to be some home for us left somewhere, and I'm going to find it.
Bia plunged towards the trees and heard the humming of her fellow colony's wings fluttering behind her. She could see sunlight bursting through the cracks in the trees, driving her forward. With the last bit of energy she had, she beelined past the final tree. Before her stood a small cottage with warm smoke rolling out of the chimney. The rickety shutters must have been painted years ago, because the white paint was peeling from the dusty wood. Warm light was pouring from the cobweb-filled window, and she could see movement from within. But nothing made this cottage quite as amazing as its beautiful flower-filled garden that was fenced in by an old worn picket fence. Bia could see large sunflowers towering over the roof of the cottage. Just below them were coneflowers and beautiful asters. But best of all were the multiple, voluptuous, giant catmint plants, Bumble's favorite. With teary eyes, Bia turned to her colony.
Guys, I think we're home.
The colony carefully made their way to the garden and skeptically sniffed each flower. They smell fine to me, said one of Bea's fellow workers. Before Bia could respond, she heard a creak come from the cottage door. The colony scattered in every direction to find the best hiding place as they feared the worst. Emerging from the dusty doorway was a small old woman. The sun shone off of her white wispy hair as she stepped outside, and her glasses looked like they were about to fall off of her nose, even though a small chain was attached to them and ran behind the sweet woman's head. Bia noticed a small figure that made up one of the links of her glasses chain. But what was it? Apprehensively, Bia inched forward until she could barely make out the figure. It was her! Well, not her exactly. It was a little figure of a bee. Bia yelled back to the rest of the colony.
It's okay, guys. Come look. She likes our kind.
The old woman yelled with excitement when she saw the rest of the colony emerge from their hiding places behind various flower petals.
Boys, get out here!
She exclaimed with as much excitement as her frail little voice could contain.
Mom, what's going on? Is everything okay?
A gruff voice yelled from inside the house, and a large, familiar man barreled through the doorway. A smaller, shyer boy with red welts freckling his body followed, and before they knew it, the colony was staring at the men who destroyed their home. Bia, it's them! What do we do? A shy worker called out. Before Bia could respond, the colony heard the frail woman reply.
Look at all of these beautiful bees!
Mom, are you crazy? Jack is hurt because of them.
The man gestured over to the boy, who was hiding behind the larger man's legs.
We have to tear down their hive, otherwise they'll hurt you too.
Roger, Michael!
The old woman exclaimed, absolutely horrified.
Look at what they do for my garden. My flowers are more beautiful than ever.
But Granny, what if they attack me again? Mom, I don't understand why you care for the bees so much.
The old woman sighed heavily, looking at the two boys with tears forming in her eyes.
Well, when I was a little girl, I would go out and play in my mama's garden every day. Her garden was much more beautiful than mine. I still don't know to this day how she did it. I would watch every morning as the bees came out of their hive and danced around the beautiful flowers. I didn't know what they were doing at the time. I just knew that I loved watching them. One day when my little brother was out playing in the flowers, he swatted at a bee, and it stung. I had told him so many times that the bees were friendly as long as he didn't hurt them, but he never listened to me. He wailed and wailed all morning long, And my dad was so angry he went and tore the hive down that very same night. From there on out, my mama's garden was never the same. Her flowers, which were once tall and colorful, just looked sad, as if someone had taken the life right out of them. I don't know if my dad knew it or not, but I knew it was because he had destroyed a bee's hive. The garden just seemed less alive without the buzz of the bees. My mom's garden was one of my happiest memories from my childhood, and that's why I care so deeply for these bees. I can't let you destroy them. I just can't.
Wow, Mom, I didn't know that. Okay, I won't hurt the bees, but I swear, if they even try to come near me.
I know, Roger. Baby steps.
The woman said with a chuckle, wiping a single remaining tear.
Now come on, you two. I think there's some great tea with honey calling our names.
As the three of them walked inside, the bees flew out from their hiding place, and for the first time in a long time, the colony felt safe.